back to Simply Fujica, a place for budding and inspiring entrepreneurs. Guys, I want to welcome you here to another week at Simply Fujica. If you're new to this channel, I do want to welcome you. Definitely thank you for stopping by. If you haven't already, don't forget to like the video. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification so you're notified every time I release a new video. Okay guys, I have a good one for you. So whenever I can, I always try to do videos based on if I'm getting a lot of questions from you. And a question I'm getting a lot of is, what do you put in your client folder? So this is not the folder that you give the client, right? That's different. And I'm actually probably going to do a separate video on that. But this video is in your office. What items should you have for each and every client that you have? So really different. Want to make sure that I made that distinction right up front. So guys, one thing I wanted to say before we jumped into the video is, remember, not only is this big and important for compliance, and I did a video a few months back on how to stand up a compliant organization. So I'll make sure that information is linked below. I'll probably have a card for it up front here too, so you can also watch that video. But not only is this compliant, but remember guys, a client folder is something that's auditable. So you want to make sure that your client folders are absolutely complete and that you have the most up-to-date information as possible for your clients. So guys, if that's something you're interested in, then go ahead and stay tuned. So guys, remember, this is not going to be an all-inclusive list because, again, it is state specific, and remember, there are some states that don't require anything. They don't have any requirements. But the rule of thumb that I will give you today, the general guidance that I will provide, is anything that you need in order to deliver excellent care to your client, you want to make sure you have that information within your folder, okay? So that's always just a rule of thumb that applies across the board. However, today I have come up with 5 items that you should have in that client's folder. So we're going to get started with the first one. So guys, the first tip that I have for you is the client agreement. Now guys, this is really important because if executed correctly, there should be no outstanding questions between you and the client in terms of payment. So the client agreement should spell out the who, the what, the when, right? So is this person paying you every 2 weeks? Is this person paying you on the first of the month? What are the actual details of your agreement? What is the amount? What is the method? Okay, so these are all the things that you're not assuming, right? But it's actually in agreement, and you and the client have come to agreement to these terms. So it's really important that you have that set up prior to day one. In addition to that, most of the time there's some type of deposit that is made for that care. So whether that's the first and last payment, whether that is they're paying you up front for the first month of service, whatever that case may be, make sure that is spelled out and there's an invoice that references how that deposit is to be applied. Okay, so again, no assumptions, no gray lines here. It is specific, it is to the point, and it is representative of both the client themselves and you as the agency owner. The second note that I wanted to make on the client agreement is, if you are going to be receiving payment from an insurance plan or in-home support services or things of that nature, you may want to have a copy of that policy, a copy of that agreement along with your client services agreement, just so that you can have all of that information together. It's all at a glance and you can pull it all out if you need to in regards to any kind of service disputes, any kind of payment disputes. You have all of that spelled out and you know who you need to reach out to for what reason. You want to make sure that as it relates to payment, that everything is comprehensive and concrete. The second item that you want to have in that folder is the care plan. So remember, through onboarding, right, and through that initial visit where you're really digging into, this is going to turn into a client relationship. You should have done some type of assessment. So by you having that assessment that was complete at the time of onboarding, that should actually lend exactly to what your care plan is for that client. So you want to make sure that you have both documents. And it's always nice to have a look back period. If the expectation is that this is short-term care, is your care plan actually aligned with that person improving, right? If that expectation is there, sometimes there isn't that expectation, and sometimes that care is just needed, right? So if the expectation is this is short-term care and the person is supposed to be improving, then that actual initial assessment can actually serve as a great look back document to say how well the client is doing as a result of your care. The third item that I have for you guys is emergency contact. Now guys, this is going to be in your marketing folder as well, but you want to make sure this is not only, making sure that the client has your contact information, but you want to make sure that you have those emergency contacts on that client side in your folder. Reason being, emergencies can happen, and when they do, who should you be reaching out to if there's an emergency? This is post calling 911. So who do you notify after you have already notified emergency services? So after we're ensuring that that client is being taken care of, who on that client side needs to know? Is it a spouse? Is it a child? Who's in the know? Who needs to be reached out to? So you want to make sure who is that client's inner circle that they want you to speak to if something were to happen in the event of an emergency. So in addition to the emergency contact that you want to have on that client side, that list should include their other providers. What doctors do they have? I was speaking to my mother-in-law the other day, and she had to call a certain doctor for a certain thing and call another doctor for a certain thing. So you want to make sure that you know who are those other providers that may be in the need to know in the event of an emergency. The fourth item that I have for you guys today is that client's medication list. Now listen, I know you're going to be saying, but wait a minute, this is non-medical, we're not allowed to disperse medication, and you're absolutely correct. However, what if that client is having a reaction to the medication? What if the client is asking you to remind them to take a certain medication at a certain time, which is allowable? You can certainly remind them to take a medication. But if that client is having a reaction, you better be able to communicate what it is that that client is taking, because remember, that can help that person that's rendering maybe emergency services, or a physician if you're having that conversation, or if you're helping that client have that conversation. You can fill in those blanks for that person to say, hey, I know Fujica is taking this medication, and then that can help that medical provider understand what may need to happen for that client. So it's really important for you to have that medication list and know when and how often they should be taking that medication. Last but not least, guys, the fifth item I have is the rights and responsibilities form. Now, guys, you can get this form. Actually, it is on the California Department of Social Services website, so I will make sure to link it below. But it is really essentially, what are the rights and responsibilities of our clients? So what are our clients' rights? All of that is spelled out, and who they can contact if they feel their rights have been violated. Conversely, it's also what are your responsibilities as a person providing care. So it's a real important document to make sure that you go over. I think that should be included in any client onboarding session, to go over that, really highlight. That's a perfect time to highlight some of the items that are listed on that form. But you want to make sure that not only do you go over it during your onboarding session, but that's included in your client folder. Okay guys, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. Guys, remember, I will do a separate video as it relates to what should that onboarding folder look like for the client, okay, which is a little bit different than what we discussed today. But I do hope you enjoyed the video. As always, it is my hope that this is a value add for you and your home care agencies. Guys, if you haven't already, make sure that you like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification so you're notified each and every time I drop a new video. That's all I have today, guys. Stay blessed.